Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Fab. I'm joined with Raj and Nacc. We are here once again to bring you guys through a wonderful journey that is fantasy football. Thank you very much for coming along with the ride for us. Before we begin, please like, follow, subscribe to all of our social medias. We're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts. You'll find us everywhere you listen to all of your social medias. So please find us, follow us, interact with us. We're always there to interact with our fans, which we really enjoy doing. So please take a look and go find us wherever you get your fantasy football news, because you're going to be getting it from three wonderful individuals here who know exactly what they're doing most of the time. Before we before we begin, it's got a quick pour one out for Jim Isray. Yeah, he passed away at the tender age of 65 years old, I believe, over the weekend. I forget the day exactly, but I know it was recently. It was following our last episode. So that obviously leaves a very big void in the Indianapolis Colts organization. He's been there. He was like the youngest GM at one time ever. Yeah. So props to him for what he did in the organization, bringing them a Super Bowl and really putting Indianapolis, as far as the Colts are concerned, on the map. So rest in power, Jim Isray. Rest in power. But we have a fantastic episode ready for you guys to go into. We actually started doing a little bit of some early rankings right now, just to wet our beak a little bit, as we say when it comes to fantasy football, because the draft happened. A lot of surprises, a lot of some good stuff, but that obviously impacts the rankings for the following season. So we here at the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast, we decided to do a little bit of an early ranking episode right now to give you guys a little bit of taste as to how things might be next year, or this year rather, for the upcoming fantasy football season. We're going to be going over them. We're going to be highlighting some of the rankings that we might be, a little bit of a discussion on, where some guys might be a little bit higher on than other guys. We're going to be having some very I don't want to say heated, but there are going to be some debates, I'm sure, like usual. We're going to look into some of those consensus rankings versus our own little Bush League Huddle takes. So I guess, Raj, without further ado, unless I missed something, guys, I'm sorry, but without further ado, let's just jump right into the first set of rankings over here. Oh, look at that beautiful screen share. You better be watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to us, on Spotify right now, keep listening. That's fine. But just make sure at some point in time you do take a look at what we got going on YouTube.
We get this on Spotify video as well, so they could stay on Spotify.
We have Spotify video.
We've been having Spotify video.
Amazing.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's amazing. Look at this, guys. We're at the forefront of technology. You might even realize it, because I don't even realize it. So we're at the forefront of technology right now. This is amazing.
I was today years old when I found out.
I was today years old. Look at that guy. We're just breaking down all the barriers. So we're gonna. Listen. Number one, I don't think anyone's gonna be really debating us. We have Josh Allen right there. We got
no debate whatsoever.
No debate whatsoever. We got Lamar Jackson at number 2. Jaden Daniels at number 3. However, this is consensus ranking, and there is a little bit of a discrepancy as to where one individual had them versus the other two. Not a huge discrepancy. So Nacc and Roger have Jaden Daniels ranked as number 3. I have him ranked as number 5. So not a big gap. But before I jump into my reason as to why, I want to get Nacc and Roger's take. So I'm going to start off with you, Nacc. Jaden Daniels, number 3. In your books, he's the number 3 quarterback this year?
Yeah. I think we saw what he did last year in his rookie year. All they did this summer was bolster, giving him some more weapons with Deebo Samuel. They also shored up that offensive line by making that trade for Laramie Tunsil. So he's gonna have protection, and he's as good a thrower as he is a runner, really, right? He's not like, I wouldn't call him a Lamar Jackson runner, but he extends plays when he needs to, and he does it remarkably well. I know that there's been, regression at times with quarterbacks in year 2, but I just think that he's a very special player, and he's just going to continue to catapult forward. Sometimes you could just kind of tell from a player when, like, he has it, and Jaden Daniels is that player to me.
Raj, what do you think?
Yeah, it was between Daniels and Burrow, and the almost 900 rushing yards was too hard to pass up to rank Daniels ahead of him. And then I think for Hurts, like Hurts comes up after, and I'm sure we'll talk about him. I just think already Daniels is a better passer than Hurts. As much as Hurts deserves so much credit for the Super Bowl, he played amazing. We all recall what those discussions were about Hurts last year. I had those discussions too, right? He gets tush push back, so that's okay. But I think Nacc, he mentioned all the points. Debo, Terry McLaurin, imagine he takes another step up as well. The offensive line, Cliff Kingsbury being back, I think that's a big thing as well. And look out for Jalen Lane too. Jalen Lane, he was one of the speedsters that came from, I believe, Virginia Tech, and they brought back Zach Ertz. So I think all that combined, that brings me to having him third over Hurts and Burrow. But I would be also concerned with the sophomore slump, which we saw with CJ Stroud last year.
Well, that's very good takes. I don't disagree with any of those. And if somebody tells me tomorrow, Fab, you have to have like I get it. Like Jaden Daniels at 3, like you're not crazy for saying that. I have Jalen Hurts at 3 instead of Jaden Daniels. Basically, I had them flipped, and then I'm at Joe Burrow with 4. The only reason why I have Hurts above Daniels, obviously a part of it is the sophomore slump, and maybe I'm a little bit jaded following CJ Stroud last year. But on top of that, Jalen Hurts averaged about the same amount of points per game than Jaden Daniels, just played 2 less games. In addition to that, Jalen Hurts last year had probably, I don't want to say his worst statistical season, but he had 18 rushing touchdowns versus the usual 23 or 22 that he has. And he also threw for less than 3,000 yards last year. So I think last year was a bit of a down year for Jalen Hurts. And I also look at Jalen Hurts as more of a proven commodity. And I feel like because this is obviously, these are our rankings, but we're looking at this from a perspective of a 2 QB league. And when you're drafting your top quarterback, you want him to be safe. You want him to, cash in those 21 points a week, those 22 points a week. You want to not have any concern about what you're going to be getting. Jaden Daniels just comes with that little bit more risk for me, only because if it's a sophomore slump. And I also do think that, so I said Jaden Daniels, comes a little bit more risk for me because of that sophomore slump. And I feel like Jalen Hurts will ascend to his usual point total, his usual rushing yard total, his passing yard total. That I think last year was a bit of an outlier. And even with the outlier, we're talking about like very comparable statistics to Jaden Daniels. And again, I'm not going to beat my chest and say absolutely Jalen Hurts over Jaden Daniels. No, I just if I was given the 2 options at 3, I think I would go Hurts. I would feel a little more comfortable with Hurts than I would with Jaden Daniels.
It's the high variance games, I think, the 35 point, almost 40 point games that Daniels has. And to your point, Hurts has a better floor. Like I'm looking at his game log from last year, and he only had 1 game where he was below double digits in fantasy points. I believe Daniels had like 3 or 4. So it's like
Daniels was also a rookie, right?
Yeah, he was also a rookie. So I find that type of decision will also depend on which quarterback you tether either Hurts or Daniels with in a 2 QB league. Maybe with Daniels, we'll go with someone more safe,
100%
as your second QB. But I don't think you could go wrong either way.
Out of the rankings that we have over here right now on the screen, Raj, is there any one of these guys that you think will really out? Because these are obviously preseason rankings. Like OTAs started today, where we are May 27th, 2025, and a lot can happen between now and when training camp picks up and when preseason, all that stuff, right? So we obviously might be a little bit higher on some of these guys or even lower. Is there any one of these guys you think that we're ranking way too low right now?
So I had Justin Herbert 6th in my rankings. You guys had him 8th and 9th. I think I talked about it in one of our previous episodes. I'm really high on him. I think this has to be the year that he really breaks out and becomes a bona fide top 3 to 5 QB. And for me, the reason being it's what they did in the offseason. Trey Harris, Amarian Hampton, getting Hampton, who can catch the ball. He's a really good pass catcher of the ball out of the backfield. I think that always helps Justin Herbert. I think getting another guy on the outside, Trey Harris, Lad McConkey, you expect him to step up as well. I just think another year with him in that offense. Last year they played it a little bit safe. It was more of a ball control offense, but throw it deep. I think this year they're going to really let Herbert cook. I think he's going to have a monster year.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I was a little bit. I had my trepidations with Justin Herbert just for all the things you did mention. But I would not be shocked if he does outperform. What we have him right now is ranked as 8th. I would not be shocked if he finished as a top 5 quarterback. Because you look at the top 5, right? It's like, who does he have to usurp to get to jump in there? Maybe Jalen Hurts again if he has an off year. I know I just spoke pretty highly about him, right? But it's not impossible if he repeats what happens last year. And then
But we
Justin Herbert
say
takes his time.
off year, but he finished what, 3rd, 2nd?
Hurts, you're saying?
Yeah,
Hurts?
I think Hurts finished either
No,
2nd.
QB 9 last year.
Hurts?
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah, I'm looking at them. Total points,
QB
he
9?
finished as 8.
Well,
excuse me.
it also
QB8.
depends. Are you looking at our Bush League Huddle rankings or just overall?
I'm looking at Fantasy Pros. I have ours though. Actually, I have ours as well. Bear with me.
I see him as 9th as well because of
Really?
I think it's the lack of passing yards.
9.
Maybe
very
it's
little.
passing yards.
Only 18 passing touchdowns.
He played 2 less games
Yeah,
as
that
well.
too.
He played 15 games. So like if you and like I said, on a per game basis, he matched up with Jaden Daniels. So he would have been finishing as QB 5, let's say, And also, like we talk about variance, Jalen Hurts, right? Last year QB 2 or 3, the year before QB 2 or 3, and this year, if he would have played a full slate of games, looking at QB 5. Sorry, last year QB 5. So he's safe, man. Like he has a pretty high floor and a pretty decent ceiling. Like he's safe for me.
Totally.
And also, not to harp too much on Jalen Hurts because we don't like the Philadelphia Eagles, but from a tush push standpoint, I know Rod, you mentioned a little bit earlier. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like after the vote that happened and it didn't pass, they just go ham on the tush push. They just go full
Yeah, why
FU
wouldn't
to
they?
the entire league. Like,
I just don't see a world if all of these players stay healthy, which is Allen, Jackson, Daniels, Hurts, Burrow, and Mayfield, that Herbert will be able to pass any of those guys. I'm thinking like top 6, if healthy, is pretty solidified, and it could. Obviously, the order could obviously change, but I think those 6 guys are I don't know, unless there's a collapse somewhere from one of these guys, like Baker, most touchdowns the last 2 years. Burrow, like him too, battles injuries, but like he could potentially regress points wise, or actually he may not, because if they don't have defense, he's just going to be throwing the ball all kinds as well. So he'll catapult himself to those top 5 numbers as well. So I don't see where Herbert. I think right now we have him slot. He's definitely top 10, but I just don't see a world where he breaks the top 6.
So I'd be banking on the fact that he finished really strong. If you look at his last 3 games, 22, 24, and 28 fantasy points. And he started the training camp with plantar fasciitis, foot injury. And then he had the hand injury, right? I think it was like a broken hand or something midway through the season. Despite that, he was getting better and better. If you look at his first 3 games, 10 points, 11 points, 9 points, 11 or 4 games, 11 points. A horrible start. So I would bank on him if he has a healthy training camp, healthy offseason, healthy start of the year. We know he has the talent. So
yeah.
But I'm curious. Maybe just another one that I've mentioned was Drake May. Maybe not necessarily to top. I had mentioned top 10 in the past. Maybe that was not. Maybe that was very overzealous.
Yeah, I don't see that. Honestly.
Very overzealous. But if you think of like a second-year player that might make a jump, I think that could be interesting. But like I don't know what you guys find, but the like 11, and even I guess factoring Kyler Murray, that like 10 to 17 glut of like Murray, Prescott, Goff, Love, Purdy, Caleb, Stroud, Fields. It's like guys who I think we all liked last year, especially Love, Prescott, Stroud. I don't know how to feel about them this year. I
think that was going to be my next point or my next player that I think has a potential to play better than his ranking would be Dak Prescott. We have him.
100%.
We had him. We have him each at like his consensus 11.
You guys like Dak Prescott?
I think I
Nacc
put him.
like Prescott?
Yeah, but fantasy.
Dude,
I'm saying
I know.
fantasy.
Even
Fantasy
then.
wise, I don't like him as a quarterback. There's a lot of quarterbacks I don't like here as quarterbacks that
No,
are
but I'm
just
talking
fantasy. But fantasy, if he stays healthy now with two kind of alphas on the team, I mean, sky's the limit. Like he was cooking with Lamb when healthy, right? Like he was a top play quarterback. This is a guy who, if he can play all 17 games, and he could easily have two 1,000-yard receivers and more, with each having 8+ touchdowns. Just the wide receivers. I'm thinking like he's the dark horse that it's either going to go really well or he's just going to get hurt again. But I think he has the potential to do it.
I have to push back a bit on
I hate
how
to say
good he
this.
was last year, because looking at his numbers, like he had the one good game against Baltimore where they were down and came back, and then otherwise he was very average last year, and that was like all pre-injury. And then of course Prescott, it's bang on him getting injured. Like that's the issue. That's what.
Yep.
And I had him. Remember, I had double dipped on him and CD Lamb, and it was a rough go early on in the year with him. So
Dak Prescott in 2023, when he played a full season, finished as QB3.
Yeah,
Dak Prescott, whenever he plays a full season, and I know that's a big asterisk, I know it's a very big if, and I'm not disrespecting.
Hey, any player when they play a full season is good.
But I just said he has to stay healthy, and if he stays healthy,
the potential. Yeah, Dak Prescott is going to make some fantasy manager very happy when he drafts him, or she, excuse me, because we are an inclusive podcast. When this person drafts Dak Prescott very late, and Dak Prescott ends up playing a full slate of games this season and finishes as a honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you finished as a top 5 quarterback. I would not be surprised. He slings it a lot. He has very good wide receivers. He has a very good tight end. He still has a very good O-line. And now he has a plethora of running backs, which most of them are pass catching backs.
Plethora.
Or is it a plethora? I believe it's a plethora. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Plethora.
Tetroya. So I just feel like I don't know. Dak Prescott, fantasy quarterback. He's a very good fantasy quarterback. Like you want to argue about whether you want him as your franchise quarterback? No problem. I'm not going to debate you on that because the arguments are all over the place. But from a fantasy perspective, like
I'd watch out for, if we have time for one more here, I'd watch out for Bryce Young.
Yes.
I think that's a sneaky good pick. We have him as consensus 21 right now in our rankings. He can easily push for top 15 numbers, I believe. Especially like, Jordan Love was inconsistent. Purdy now has got the contract. Caleb Williams, we don't know how he's going to be year 2. CJ Stroud, 2 struggled. Year 2, we'll see how he comes back year 3. So even Kyler Murray, I'm not 100% sure on, like, exactly. So with a nice solid season, I think he could crack the top 15 pretty easily.
I agree with that, Nacc. Like Bryce is the type that I'd be very happy with taking as my second QB late. People will think like you'll end up picking him thinking he's going to be your backup QB and 2 QB, but I think he's going to outperform that. And I see the same with Justin Fields, like 17.
I'm not sure how late Bryce Young is going to go, though. We're talking 2 QBs here. He's ranked right now in the top 21, so he's a second QB right now for someone, right, in a 10-team league.
Yeah, but
I don't know how late he goes.
You're right. It's, I think, more so the history of what he's been in the past. He finished really well last year. I still think people have that. Well, it's still Bryce Young. It's still the Panthers. They've always been horrible. But I think like
he looked good with McMillan early on OTAs.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Tetroya.
Yeah, put some respect on his name.
What do you guys think of Fields, though?
He's looked bad, apparently.
What those still shots on Twitter where they said like, "Whoa, look at Justin Fields throwing to Garrett Wilson."
I thought
he meant he was amazing.
He's the best he's ever looked in those still shots ever in his life. He's going to kill it in OTAs.
I heard the words concerning when throwing the ball on Twitter. So, I
Interesting.
don't know. Again, I hate all of the
Yeah.
concerning and doesn't look good and doesn't look like, guys, it's May. Like, we're not even in June
You know,
yet. And it's just to have, they need some type of news to talk about, right? So I'm not, I think in fantasy purposes, he's going to be very serviceable, quarterback. So I don't think we'll have to ever
Yeah.
worry. Even when he was bad with Chicago, he
Yes.
was a viable,
The rushing.
he was a viable fantasy football option.
The
So I don't,
rushing.
fantasy
Yep.
football wise, I don't worry.
And he's
Are the
gonna
Jets going to be good? I probably not, but
and I think he'll increase the value of Brees Hall as well.
for sure.
I reserve my opinion on that. I'm not sure about that actually. Brees Hall has hurt me.
Yes, he did.
Brees Hall has hurt me.
He
But
hurt you
actually,
very
but
badly.
this he did. He did. But this is a good segue into our next set of rankings. Hopefully, it's the running backs. Perfect. Good timing. Wasn't sure if it was gonna be running backs or wide receivers, guys. So yeah. So same thing with quarterbacks. Why we're gonna jump into running backs right now.
Fab missed the film study this week.
There's a lot of things that I missed this week. There's a lot of things that I missed this
Who are the
week.
three amazing fantasy football analysts you were talking about aside from Nacc and myself earlier in the intro?
No, I was referring to myself. Listen, one of us has to be number 3 in the ranking. At least one of us is an animated host. So I think we're pretty much set. Well, this is another one actually. This is another very interesting set of rankings that we have. We're all pretty much even keel on Saquon Barkley. None of us think he's going to repeat as a number 1 fantasy running back like he did last year. But we're opposite when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs and Brian Robinson. Specifically, I have Brian Robinson ranked 1. You guys have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked as 1, and then the opposite occurs. I have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked as 3, and you guys have Brian Robinson ranked as 3. I'll give you guys my take as to why I have Jahmyr Gibbs as 3 and over, which again, we're splitting hairs here, but still. My concern just comes from the fact that Ben Johnson's no longer there. And I'm not really exactly sure what the expectation is going to be from a running back standpoint or even from an offensive standpoint. I just have slightly more trepidation. Whereas with Bijan Robinson, I think this is the year. Quarterback is different. We saw what he did last year when he really took the rock and really took charge of the backfield, and he was putting up some solid numbers. And if I had to put money on one of these guys finishing as RB1, I think it's going to be Bijan Robinson. I think we're going to see his breakout year this season.
I don't think just because Ben Johnson leaves, they forget that Gibbs is good at football. Like that's how I look at it. And they still have his schemes there, right? Like they're gonna get the ball in his hands and he's gonna take it to the house like he did last year. I think for me, it's a no-brainer. Gibbs is the number 1 running back taken this year. Again, depending on who's drafting where, maybe they like Barkley better, but for me, I think it's just no-brainer, especially like his last six games down the stretch. He had like 25 plus points in each game, 2 touchdown games in every one, over 150 yards combined yards.
Those the games that Montgomery was not playing? The last 3 games,
no, he
Montgomery
was
was not there.
He was back, but it's not just that.
The last
Nacc.
3 games he wasn't there.
Yeah, but it's not just that, Nacc. It's also like the 23 carries against Chicago, 18 carries against San Francisco, 23 carries against Minnesota.
Those are just carries, just like touches. He touches
the ball.
Yeah, but he touches the ball 20 times a game,
exactly.
Regardless of who's healthy there or not.
For sure, I think it's more so. There's always been a concern with Gibbs, maybe a bit more slender, that you give more carries to David Montgomery, and Gibbs is more of your change of pace guy. I think they're realizing that Gibbs is your freaking best player on the outside. Give him the ball, and they didn't.
The best player on the team,
and they didn't do that against the Commanders, and it burned them. He had 14 carries for 100 yards, and I think 11 catches for 70 yards in that game. Like they could have given the ball 10 more times. So that's where I agree with Nacc, where I just think he's so talented, and I think they have to finally realize. That's my assumption. They're going to realize that he is the guy to give the ball to way more than Montgomery. Change it. Like every team now runs 2 running backs either way, right?
More often than
But
not. True.
more often than
Very
not.
true.
But I think Gibbs should be getting way more of the touches, and that's why I have him as my number 1.
Fair points. Fair points. I just feel like Bijan Robinson is prime for a breakout season.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all my 2 cents. But again, like it goes back to sort of the conversation we had about with the quarterbacks. You want to put Jahmyr Gibbs instead of Bijan Robinson, and if I'm there drafting at that spot, then I might end up switching my mind because for me it's like 1A, 1B, or 1C, right? Like you will not be unhappy with any one of those top 3 guys. I think after the top 3 is where it gets a little bit tricky. I mean, finally, is this the year that Derrick Henry falls off? I'm going to say no. I think we're all on the same page after last year. He proved everybody wrong, and he ran for 1,900 yards. Basically, was a big FU. So until
He went to the
falls
perfect
off,
team. He did go to the
yeah,
perfect
for
team.
sure. And we all said it too. Well, actually, I think I said it more, but we all said it to a degree. He was just primed in a great spot where running back and
He's
rushing
going
the
to be
ball
32 or
is
33 this year.
I'm
is
not
a
saying it until I
premium.
see it.
I want to.
I'm
What
not
is his
getting burnt
age?
again.
What is his
I'm not getting
age
burnt
this
again.
year? What's his age this year? Is it 32?
32, I believe.
31. He's 31.
He's
Maybe
turning
32 when he
33.
starts the season. I think right now he's 31.
And guys, there's still been a lot of backs who
But
at
he's-
age 32
he's a
got like Tiki Barber got
specimen.
1,400. Thomas Jones, like a ton of guys have still gotten 1,500 yards at that age 32. And if there's anyone who could do it, it's him.
The man is the LeBron James of the NFL of running backs. Like he's not going to fall off until he falls off.
Yeah.
And we don't know when that is, and it's fine. We're just going to keep on riding the train until it happens. Yeah, so Derrick Henry, number 4 overall in our rankings. Hard to disagree with that. Christian McCaffrey at 5. This was an interesting one. I'll be honest with you. I ranked him at 5. You guys have him ranked around the same 6 and 7. Yeah. My argument to this is ranking him slightly higher than you guys, but I think we're all not that far apart. It's just I just feel like Christian McCaffrey is going to be coming back healthy, and we're going to see the McCaffrey of old. I think he still has a few more seasons left in him, quite frankly. And you saw what happens when he gets injured and misses the season, and then comes back, and then just puts just lights the world on fire. And that's what I'm expecting to happen again this year too. I'm not expecting him to finish as number 1 overall, but I think he will bring you back solid RB1 numbers on a week in, week out basis.
I wanted to rank him lower.
I honestly, I was thinking about it. I just couldn't do it. Like I know we have the consensus Bucky Irving lower. I had Bucky Irving as number 4. Excuse me, even ahead of Derrick Henry. I think I had Henry at 5.
Yep, you did.
I was scared, but then when you just looked at the tier below McCaffrey, like Irving McCaffrey, you get into Josh Jacobs, Genty, Achan. It was hard for me to do it, but I guess there's like that name recognition part of me that just couldn't get him to go lower. But
you know what it is?
I'm not going to be shocked if he finishes like 10, 11.
Yeah. I'm not. I think the earliest I draft him is like if I don't want to touch him. I have massive.
No, finish that thought.
Yeah, finish that thought. I want to hear this. So, would you take McCaffrey over Devon Achane?
Oh no, I don't like it. It's not that I don't like Achan. Is that just that Miami offense? Just I don't trust it. And
okay, fair enough. No, these are good questions. This is great answers.
But I'm out on McDaniels. That coach.
Oh yeah, same. Honestly,
I'm so out on McDaniels.
And also, I
have him ranked as 9 Achan. I think that's too high personally, but
I think I was I think it was the running backs coach or the offense coordinator for the Dolphins. I saw it on Twitter on the Coach Speak Twitter page that was saying Jalen Wright was looking good too. Mm-hmm. So they spent I think they spent a pretty high draft pick on him. I want to say second.
I want to say a third round pick.
Second, third. Okay.
Yeah, I want to say it's a third round pick, but I could be wrong on
that.
I don't think they use a second on.
But him. I also want to know how late you wouldn't draft him before which round, Raj?
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like if I see him in the second round, I'm not taking him.
Okay, so you only take him starting third round.
He might be a do not draft for me, and I think we'll talk about do not draft players like at some point.
Yeah, we will.
Episodes. Like he might be a do not draft for me unless it's crazy value like how you got. Was it Kyron Williams or Someone got Kyron Williams
Nick got
last
Yeah,
year.
Kyron
Nick
Williams
got
in
Kyron
the
Williams
in the
super late
fifth
because apparently he's
That's
gonna be
round or
catching too many
something.
punts. That
that's
was
the only
stupid.
way. That's like I think fifth is where like I reside on
Actually,
McCaffrey.
Wow,
that
he'll
was
be
gonna be my next
he'll
question.
definitely be gone before the fifth.
And I'll be fine
Yeah.
with that.
That's my next question, Roger. Between you're stuck in a spot right now. Let's say in the fifth round or 4th
Mhm.
round, where you're gonna be where potentially might draft Christian McCaffrey. He's there next to Kyron Williams, and there's nobody left after. Everybody else is everyone we have ranked after them. Kyron Williams or Christian McCaffrey.
Neither. I'll take a wide receiver.
You can't cop out of a question like this.
Okay. Well,
Gun to your head, you have
why
to
can't
take
I take
one.
why can't I take James Cook? Why can't I take
Do you want James Cook, who missed first OTAs and probably won't even come to training camp until he gets a new contract?
OTAs is nothing fast.
But he seems disgruntled enough
man.
where it's a bit worrisome. Like he's been talking about that 20 million.
Yeah.
Look,
not getting
it'll
I
be
agree.
look
Yeah.
look to answer your question. I don't want to cop out. It would be McCaffrey. It would be McCaffrey. But I think the Kyron Williams situation at some point, like McVay, it seems like every 2 years has had a new running back in Los Angeles.
It's funny you mentioned that actually, because I was looking at the age of the running back in the Sean McVay offense when more or less they start to fall off, or would be the last year before they fall off. If you were to draft Kyron Williams, it would be this year, because next year it might not be him the guy anymore. And even that, like to your
We
point,
said that last year, but
we said that last year
Wait,
too.
they
But
drafted Blake Corum.
yeah, but Blake Corum, I don't think really moved the needle all that much.
No, he didn't.
No.
He didn't.
You know what the problem with drafting McCaffrey is that you're going to have to draft his handcuff high.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great
You have
point.
no
Very good point.
choice but to waste a high draft pick on a handcuff.
That's a
Where
great point.
you
Very
know,
good
like
point.
you're instead of grabbing him, like his handcuff won't be there in the 15th round. You know, like you're gonna have to go 11, 10, 11th round, and you're gonna have to grab a handcuff that early rather than a positional piece, because you just really have no choice. So it was tough to peg him, though. I was just wow, that came out wrong. But but six, I ranked them.
Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the most recent comment. That
I ranked him 6 because I just couldn't drop him any further after that tier.
I think Nacc's favorite pastime is S&D. So we are we a little bit too low on Chuba Hubbard? Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba.
I was looking at his ranking and the fact that it's basically be his backfield again this year, and he played really well last year. This is a low end RB2, which is more or less where he finished last year. I think last year he finished at around running back 16, so we're not too off from where he finished versus where we have him ranked right now.
I think I'll take him before Joe Mixon.
I don't disagree. I
think
can't
Joe
disagree
Mixon-
with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's going to be one of the guys that age becomes a factor.
Yeah.
Kenneth,
He
he did.
looked bad. He looked bad,
and I think I'd go Chuba Hubbard over Kenneth Walker as well, just because of the
I
injury.
agree.
The injury.
Yep.
And Charbonnet.
And like, man, is Kamara really, really, really gonna do it again?
He does it every year, man.
It's crazy.
Every
I know.
single
It's just,
year
him
he
too. It's like
destroys his ADP. He
him
destroys
too.
it.
Like, and this is the year. I think it's his last year, right, on his contract. So like, they're probably like, if they're gonna want to use him, I mean, that team is like dumpster fire right now. So I don't know how much like.
I wonder if he'd be a mid-season trade candidate.
Yeah, he probably will be.
Yeah.
Like, very, very, very possible.
So I think Hubbard's ranked pretty fairly, like around the James Conner. Like he's gonna get like 225 carries, 1,000 yards, 8-10 TDs.
But just looking at some of the guys that are ranked, looking at some of the guys we have ranked before him, I agree with Nacc. Like Kenneth Walker, no. Joe Mixon, no. James Cook, no. Like I feel much more comfortable with Chuba Hubbard, to be honest with you.
Well,
Chase Brown is
hard
to rank for me.
James Cook had a amazing year last year.
But the Cook had an amazing year, crazy efficient year.
Such an outlier.
But I don't think it. I don't know if he's gonna get 16 or 18 touchdowns again. Ray Davis played really well.
Yeah.
I think they still have Tyler Johnson. So that's James Cook. I temper drafting him as much as I enjoyed having him. But we glossed over Genty. We're all good with just standard operating procedure with Genty at 8?
For me, yeah. Like, so my personal rankings where I have him at 7, and I have
Yeah.
Bijan before him, Saquon, Jahmyr, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, and then Genty. And then all the guys that come after, I feel much more comfortable with Genty as my RB1.
Man, if I relook at
I'm such a
this,
Josh Jacobs stan. Like I had him 5th.
I just
I
yeah,
love it
have
too
him at
much.
6.
that's a
It's
that's
300
a
carries,
homer of a
man.
ranking if
love
I
him.
ever
I
if I
just love
ever
that guy
seen
too. I
one.
love that guy too much.
No, but
man.
he was good
Yeah,
last year,
he's
and he
very
got the
good.
ball all the time. And
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more down on Jordan Love this year than last year. Last year I was super high on him, and there's still no true wide receiver one, even though they drafted Marcus
Golden.
Golden, um,
Matthew Golden.
Matthew, Luke John, Bible. So all that stuff, I just feel like they don't have a true wide receiver one, but they have Josh Jacobs, and I just feel like they weren't throwing it all that much last year. So I'm with you, Roger. I'm actually pretty. I'm not as high as you, but
When
I'm
I
not too
look
far
at
behind.
this when I look at this again, I think my brain tells me Jonathan Taylor and Brees Hall above Ashton Genty still.
Oof,
Man,
Taylor.
I
I'm
know.
so out on Taylor,
It's
man.
tough, but
Yeah,
yeah, but
me
even
too.
Taylor too.
This guy doesn't
It's the
catch
injuries.
anything, man. He
It's
doesn't.
the injuries that really like. But he played good down the stretch. Like when he came back from injury, he had really some solid games. Like Genty, it's his backfield, right? So
But
that's what.
Nacc, it's just the 18 catches, man. Like he's such a
Dude,
good
the
runner, but
reason
18
why I would take
catches is
Genty, the reason why I would take Genty over both of them is because I don't want to watch Colts games or Jets games. I'd rather watch Oakland, who's on the up and up. Like that's where my brain
agreed.
If
would sway me. Because
Agreed.
like watching a Colts
yeah,
game and watching Jonathan Taylor, like I have no interest in that.
if
I have no
if
interest in
that's not a
watching the
selling
Jets.
point, I don't know what
Agreed.
is.
Plus, we're going to Vegas, so having drafted
Whoa,
Genty
whoa, whoa, whoa,
would
whoa,
be
whoa,
crazy.
whoa! Stop the presses. What's this now? Are we announcing to our viewers what's going on?
I think we
Ladies
just
and
did.
gentlemen, the Bush League Huddle podcast are going mobile.
Woo!
We are most likely, because I don't think tickets have been purchased yet, but we're looking to go watch the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Los
Don't tell
Angeles
him.
Chargers.
Live show. We gotta do a live show.
Live show.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to do a live show,
gotta
depending
do
on
live
how
show.
inebriated we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all over 21, so it's fine. Yeah, so just keep in mind, we're gonna, but when we get closer to the day, we're gonna get more information. So just just relax. Don't get too excited there when you're listening to the podcast or watching on Spotify. We're looking to take this episode live and in person at some point, but we're definitely gonna be there. So yeah. So to your point, Nacc, you want to be even Omero Hampton. Like I might be looking to draft him a little bit sooner than I normally should, just for the fact that I get to see this guy play live.
I think in hindsight, not in hindsight. I think looking back, I think Brees Hall might be a bit high. If I look at his season, where he looked like he got outplayed by Braylon Allen, and he's still in the mix. And there was like some weird rumors about him getting traded. I think I would Chase Brown. I would probably rank Chase Brown above Brees Hall.
Team was just a dumpster.
It was a big dumpster.
It was a
fire.
very
So
very.
much
It
uncertainty.
was
There's a lot
like
of question marks. A lot of question marks.
Yeah, like we all had. Nacc, we all had Chase Brown, but yeah, like I mean, it's very close. We had Chase Brown next to Brees Hall, pretty much in the rankings. Yeah, I don't know. He's hard to trust next year. This upcoming season, he's very hard to trust.
He is hard to trust next year, and so is his wide receiver counterparty, which is what we're going to be jumping onto the next time. Right now, we're going to be jumping into the wide receiver rankings, and obviously Garrett Wilson is. We have him ranked right now, kind of low-ish, right? Like a low-end wide receiver one. This one was hard for me to rank. I'll be honest with you, because I feel like Garrett Wilson was always going to be that guy that's about to pop off. But I mean, you guys have him ranked as 12. I have him at 14. I'm not as high on him, mind you. You guys aren't that high on him either. This is one of those guys that I might be fading him a little bit more, just because of all the uncertainty we spoke about from the New York Jets in general. Like I feel like there's so much variance from the Jets fantasy players this year: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Where we talk about how Justin Fields does have the college connection with Garrett Wilson as they played with for OH.
IO.
Thank you. And obviously Brees Hall is just Brees Hall, but you don't know what to expect. The defensive head coach that came in, like I want to be high on Garrett Wilson, but he's going to have to be at a very good value spot for me to draft him next year.
The OC came from the Lions, so that gives a bit of optimism. He needs to be schemed like the way Aaron Rodgers likes to play is no motion. It's very much one-on-one, wide receiver beats corner. So he's not being schemed open. You would assume coming from the Lions, it's build scheme, build route concepts that will get the guy open, and he's very talented. But on the flip side, is the QB accurate enough, and can the QB read the defense well enough to get him open? It's like he's in the perfect offense, actually, but he doesn't like. I don't know if Justin Fields is going to be able to deliver the ball to him in this type of. This is like not a Justin Fields type offense at all.
It's going to be interesting to definitely see. I don't know. Garrett Wilson, I guess he must be happier. He's got his, like you said, his Ohio State teammate back with him. They had some solid seasons in college, but I think he's ranked appropriately. I don't think he should be in the top 10, especially looking at these names right now that we have. I think we're pretty consistent in our top 10 rankings. A little bit of a scramble. I think where it starts to take shape is more in the 15 to 20 range, where we kind of flip-flopped a little bit more.
10 to 17 was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. I think our biggest variance was JSN.
Actually,
no.
no.
You had him 18.
Second biggest variance. Our first biggest variance was Lad McConkey.
Yeah.
But JSN was right there, right?
Yeah. So why do you have him? Why do you have Lad 10? That's
top 10.
I have Lad 10. Yeah, I have Lad 10.
Wild.
I'm super high on Lad this year. I just feel like it's going to be a lot of the, well, from a PPR standpoint, obviously. I feel like he's going to blow up again. I don't know. I just feel like he is the guy. He is the guy in that offense. It runs through him. Justin Herbert's going to look for him. We spoke about how, they added Trey Harris and they have a lot of nice weapons there, but
they're going to run.
Lad's a pristine route runner. And I'm just very high. I also like from a
you sounded like Mike Greenberg when you said pristine. You sound like Mike Greenberg there.
Pristine.
Also
from a floor standpoint, right? Like the only guy, maybe I might have been a little bit overzealous with Lad. Now I'm looking now. I had T Higgins at 12. Like you can switch those two around. Okay, fine, right? But I feel much more comfortable having Lad there instead of Tyreek Hill, instead of Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, Tyreek.
Instead of Devontae Adams, we can have a conversation about that. But right as of right now, as we're talking about this right now. I don't know what type of involvement Devontae Adams is going to have in that offense because it's Puka Nacua's team, we would imagine. So I just feel comfortable with Lad McConkey from a floor perspective, and we all know what his ceiling can be. And definitely above Terry McLaurin.
Yeah,
even Terry McLaurin.
He was 7th last year, man. We gave him no respect whatsoever.
Yeah, dude, I love Scary Terry.
You know what? McLaurin and Adams, I don't think we gave enough respect to.
McLaurin is like I still have PTSD from like the pre Jaden Daniels years. I don't think I'll ever get over those years. But Adams, I would agree. Like I don't know why I don't like we 50. I was 16, Nacc, you're 17, Fab is 15. That seems low for him.
It does. I don't think we're putting enough respect on his name.
I know.
And he's been like one of the most consistent wide receivers.
I think I would take McLaurin ahead of Wilson and Higgins. Potentially Tyreek Hill too.
Definitely Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Definitely Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is very much a fade for me.
Now that we're looking at this, really,
if I don't have to draft him, I don't really want to draft him. There are some guys on this list that I'm looking at right now where it's like if I can avoid, I will. And Tyreek Hill is definitely one of them.
Even the one that stood out to me, even though like I had him ranked pretty low as well, is Xavier Worthy.
Now you like him, huh?
Well, at 30, I feel like second year he showed us a little bit. Hey, I was going it based off rookie numbers. Okay, that's how I was ranking him last year. Okay, and I'm pretty sure I won the bet. For the skin of my teeth, but I won the bet.
We
Okay.
have to go through the archives, brother.
Yeah, but I think I got that. It was very, very close though. It was a lot closer than I expected.
Yeah,
I'll
for
give
sure.
you that. But I think rank 30 was seems a bit low,
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it's
especially with the Rishi Rice uncertainty.
yeah, those they
Yeah.
were both hard to rank. I felt.
But I wouldn't be able to put him higher than 25, even with the Rasheed Rice uncertainty. Like I don't know how I wouldn't be able to take him over DJ Moore, over like over DK Metcalf. Like you're gonna take Travis
So
Worley over DK Metcalf.
so I have a question. Where does DK are we putting DK at 25 based off Aaron Rodgers, or like is he getting bumped once we know that Aaron Rodgers is 100% coming, or is this based off or is this regardless?
I think it stays the
I
same regardless. I don't think
Yeah.
it matters. I don't think it matters who
no,
the QB is. You may bump
I
him up a
would bump
bit if it's
him.
Rodgers.
Yeah, I would bump him to more of a low end wide receiver 2.
Like you may take him ahead of Cortland and Flowers.
I might even take him.
Even Devonta Smith. Like
I would take him even ahead of Marvin
Smith,
Harrison Jr.
I can't
to be
stand
honest.
owning Devontae Smith.
that's what I'm saying. Like you
like,
may bump him into the
Yeah.
top 20.
Great
Like
player, but
he'd be a wide receiver 2 basically with Aaron Rodgers, I would say.
Yeah, it's comfortably wide receiver 2. Comfortably.
That's how I would.
And then like the other one I was thinking of is Marvin Harrison Jr. He was going. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he going top 8 wide receiver last year, if not earlier?
He's like fourth wide receiver. I think
that's crazy.
He
was crazy last year.
I don't think
or 11, something like 11.
Yeah,
He was going in first round in drafts.
He was going as low end wide receiver 1, and he ended up as wide receiver. Yeah, like a low, like he ended up as wide receiver 3.
He got yoked though. He got
very good value pick. Yeah, he did get yoked. He was massive. I think that's a very good value pick.
Yeah.
Around where he could go with a second
breakout season incoming.
For sure.
I have a question that we didn't rank this guy, Calvin Ridley, with Cam Ward being there. He finished as wide receiver. He finished as wide receiver 25 last year. He finished as wide receiver 25 last year. Right. So that's just call that what it is. Not amazing, not horrible, but we haven't ranked him here, and we're looking at our top 30.
I never draft Tennessee players. Never. I hate Tennessee players. That team is just too boring for me.
My God, what has Tennessee done to you? Jeez,
I'm surprised you brought up Calvin Ridley. You made him. He was a wide receiver 6 for you all year last year.
We like to take this moment to apologize to our listeners from Nashville. Yeah, very sorry. Nacc's views do not represent the views of the podcast.
I'm very bullish on Cam Ward. I'm just gonna say that.
You love Pickens, the cut of his jib. That's what you love.
We didn't rank Pickens, Odunze, Khalil Shakir.
No, we're not ranking Pickens. Pickens is going to get 900 yards and like 7 touchdowns.
Who is he usurping, Nacc?
Yeah,
bro. Like we drafted. We put Waddle in at 27. Like you can't tell me right now that George Pickens and Waddle can't switch.
No, I have Waddle at 31. I do not believe in Waddle this year.
This might be the year he takes over.
I don't like. We're talking about like teams that we don't want to touch. Like the Dolphins are up there right now.
He's hurt a lot too.
Shakir, it's that like communist wide receiver core where like you just don't know who's
Shakir's going to burn it.
Like didn't they added Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman's still there. Curtis Samuel's still there. Like I like Shakir as a player, but I feel Josh Allen is I feel he has so much PTSD from Stephon Diggs. He is like, I am just gonna spread it. Whoever's
all
open.
Over the field.
I am all over the field. I am not keying on one guy. Dunze, that's tough because they drafted Luther Burden.
Yep.
So that's a tough one, you know.
That's true.
There's a lot of guys like Diggs, to your point. Ayuk, you know. Juwan Jennings, I really like Juwan Jennings. I actually
love
think he can break
Juwan
into
Jennings.
I still say Pickens has his best season as a pro in an offense with a quarterback.
It's a lot of good guys, man. And that I could see it. I could see it.
Yeah, I can. It's not impossible to say. I just
Man, there's some guys. You're right. There's some guys on this list. It's like
and Nacc, we go back to how like every single wide receiver that's ever left the Steelers has performed poorly after. Is Pickens going to be the one to buck that trend? Who knows?
I think this is the last one. This is the youngest one to leave in his prime like this, like more prime.
Yeah.
Brown was a bit later. Wallace, I think it was a bit later. Deontay a little later.
The last thing I want to say is that I find the top 7 for wide receivers is the easiest top 7 of any position group to rank.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I like it.
Top even, 7, 8 max. I think
8,
like
9,
we're all
even
aligned
9 with Brown. Up until Brown.
10,
but we're all aligned with like I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the jump off point, and everyone else like we have like in the 9 or 10 range.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like an amazing wide receiver core this year.
I think there's a lot of wide receivers this year. There's so much. Like it's like I feel like you're going to have a lot of running backs drafted a little earlier this year just because of the depth of the wide receiver position this year. There's a lot more depth than there's been in years.
Yeah, the thing about the wide receivers that wide receiver 1 is very much set. I think we kind of know who the top 10 or 12 guys are going to be. But then after that, wide receiver 2 or 3, like they can just jump in one category to another. And even
but that's what I'm saying. Imagine you went heavy on your running backs, and then you ended up with like Ladd McConkey, Terry McLaurin as your top 2. Like you wouldn't be very upset at that, right?
No, at all.
To that point, Nacc, like you could have Devontae Adams as your WR1. Zay Flowers as your WR2,
and you just said George Pickens as your WR3.
George Pickens, Jordan Addison, Diggs, Myers, Cooper Kupp. Like there's a ton of guys.
Shakur as your WR3,
Michael Pittman Jr. I think
there's so many. Jacoby Myers. We're like there's so many.
Yeah,
but we can talk about this all day. But there are some tight ends as well that we would actually want to take well before any of those guys. Talking about guys who are going to probably break the 100 reception mark easily in Brock Bowers and Trey McBride.
Look at the top 5. Look at the top 5. Man.
There's one that made me laugh, and Raj's Jonnu Smith ranking. I knew it was going to be high, but when I saw 4, I was like,
"Yeah, I had to look. I had to do a double
again. I'm like, did he put the right person?"
I had to do a double take on that. Jonnu Smith,
ladies and gentlemen, Raj had Jonnu Smith.
I always have my guy. I always have my guys. Guys,
do you want to get Raj?
Would you rather that, or would you rather I have Juwan Johnson at 4 or Chigga?
I'm so glad he wasn't ranked.
My God, jeez.
Or Taysom is Taysom
clearly Roger's the analytical expert.
I am.
So Roger, Jonnu Smith, go for it. You got the floor.
I love the way he finished last year. And I see that continuing. I don't trust Tyreek Hill anymore. Jalen Waddle is a walking injury. Like Jonnu Smith finished as tight end 4 last year.
Yeah, after only turning it on like the last 6 weeks of the season.
That was crazy. It was a crazy stretch.
It's crazy.
It was a ridiculous stretch,
and it was with Tua, and it was with he had really good chemistry with Tua. He found the end zone. 8 touchdowns. I thought he had a fantastic season, and I don't see why. Like the Dolphins haven't had a good tight end in a long time. It's always been the position. Like they tried with Gesicki, they tried with Fasano, they tried with all these guys, and they finally got someone that really fits in to that system with McDaniels. So I don't. And again, let's see what happens with Tyreek Hill. Waddle again can't trust. I think from a pure fantasy perspective, I don't see why he can't repeat it. And if you look at who did you guys have after him, or before him? Sorry.
So after 4, basically.
Yeah.
I had Njoku ahead of him. Same. I had Hawkinson, Laporta.
Throwing him the ball.
Yeah, 4 QBs rookies there, man.
Rookies most likely. Rookies always go to their tight ends anyways. And Njoku's a fantastic tight end, and we've seen what he can do when he gets.
Problem is he gets very injured too.
He gets injured too. There's a lot of different wide receivers there as well. Like there's Judy came on, Tillman came on. I feel like they drafted someone too. Deontay Johnson. Okay, maybe not. Forget that.
Kyle Pitts, guys.
Where is he?
15. Raj
Where
has
is
him at
he?
19,
I can't see
obviously.
him. I can't see him. Is this the year, guys? Guys, his touchdowns have been going up every single year since he came
I
into
think
the
he's
league.
only, what, 23 or 24 years old?
Yeah, he's like
Like,
24. He's played like
so
60
young.
games in the NFL or something. Like, it's stupid.
I'm so out.
I'm curious to see Loveland and Warren, how they finish
Yeah.
this year.
Yep, I was just gonna.
I'm actually, I'm curious to see Pat Freiermuth. I think there's a lot of value there. I know we drafted him. I know we have him there very late, right, as a low end tight end one. But then you ask yourself, like, who the hell is catching balls in Pittsburgh? So, like, he has to be involved in the offense to some degree. I wouldn't be surprised
Apparently,
if we get some
Rogers'
decent value.
boy, Wilson, looks good early on. Roman
Wilson.
Wilson.
We're going back to wide receivers.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying he's saying who's
sorry, but
who's the other wide receivers.
Yeah,
apparently,
yeah.
apparently there's
Well,
good,
I'd hope
in
so.
year
He was a third round
pick. Yeah.
Third round pick.
Yeah.
Well, they got to start using these guys. They have no other. They don't
Calvin
have
Austin
any other
too.
pass catchers.
Calvin Austin came on too last year. I don't know how good he's
Yeah,
gonna be, but
not now. No, we don't have to go
he'd
into
be,
like.
look, you could bump him
into
up
like
again
7
if
string
Rogers
Steelers wide receivers here.
If
Okay.
Rogers signs, you bump him up. If not, like
I-
maybe ahead of Kate Auden though, because
So-
that pass catching room is there's way too many people in there.
What's tight end
Nah.
strategy now? Like with the way the tight end position is, like Brock Bowers being the new Travis Kelce. Like, what is? Are we taking Lucas's strategy and taking Brock Bowers' first round pick?
I think for me, I look at it from a pass catching perspective, and because Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, you can argue are wide receiver ones.
Yep.
So if I'm at a point,
yeah.
if I'm at a point where I'm drafting guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., let's say, and I'm looking, okay, that's an exaggeration, but if I'm looking at a point where I'm drafting guys like like a Mike Evans, and for whatever reason Trey McBride is still there, I'm going Trey McBride. I'm going for that point. I'm ranking from them from a pass catcher standpoint, and it's even George Kittle I would put in there. I think the top 3 is where it would end for me.
So George Kittle, that means you would be open to taking him in the second round. You'd be open to drafting him like a high end wide receiver one.
In a 2 QB league, I don't think George Kittle's there in the second round. I think he's gonna be there in the third. I think in a 2 QB league, you're looking at Brock Bowers and Trey McBride going in the second, unless there is somebody that wants to do a back-to-back tight end, which would just be ridiculous. But then at that point, they're overreaching for tight ends anyways, and I'll just happily take the players that are available. But I think George Kittle, even honestly, even Trey McBride might be there in the third round. And that's not to say that like he's not deserving of a second round pick, more because we play in a 2 QB league and quarterbacks typically go the first 5 picks are quarterbacks.
I think that's what happened to me last year with Kittle. He kind of like just fell in my lap. I think it was like the 5th or 6th round, and he was just being ignored. He fell to me, and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna grab him. But I think of Brock Bowers, like end of the first round, I think someone's got him on their roster.
So
I'm willing to bet money that in the first round, Brock Bowers is not picked.
If he slides to 7, he's going to be picked.
In front of who? Hold on a second. We want to run down the top 7. So top 3 QBs, top 3 running backs, top 3 wide receivers. That's 9 right there. You got to take Brock Bowers in front of any of those 9 guys?
Potentially.
So you would take Brock Bowers in front of CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson? You would take him in front of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon
Josh
Barkley?
Allen or Lamar will not be there.
I would push back on that because look, the gap between Bowers and let's say a Zach Ertz is about 90 points.
Yeah, but
the gap between
Zach Ertz is what? That's not the same.
No. Hold on. The gap between Bowers and Ertz, 262 to 177. So like call it what, 90 points or so? Almost 100 points.
Mm-hmm.
The gap between Brock Bowers and let's say, who did you name? Like a CeeDee
Justin
Lamb?
Jefferson.
Justin
But
Jefferson.
CeeDee Lamb is not going to be available to me at 7. 7?
That's a
even if you say like real like 3 quarterbacks are taken. So you're saying Josh Allen, Lamar, and Daniels are gone, 100%, right?
Josh Allen, Lamar, Daniels are gone. That's 3. Okay. Because for me, it's a numbers game. It's not a player game. For me, it's a numbers game. You have the top 3 players in every position.
Definitely not a first.
He could be 10. It's not impossible that he's 10. I just don't think it's likely. Because if you take the top 3 players, whatever their names are, player A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all that stuff.
More on the turn if you're picking at 7, where
he should be in the second round. He's gone.
But that's what I'm saying is the gap between Bowers and like a mid-tier tight end is way bigger than the gap between Bowers and some of the top players from last year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
so like the top players for sure you don't take, but I wouldn't take a tight end that high. I just don't believe in taking a tight end that high. But there's a sound argument to take Bowers in that second round because of what you're getting out of that position.
For sure. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I wouldn't disagree with that. If you take Bowers in the middle of a second, it's fine for me. I get it. Like you're basically taking him over like Nico Collins.
For me, year-to-year tight end reliance, aside from Kelsey, we haven't seen it. Like we thought Laporta was a second coming.
Yeah. And now we're having the same. Now we're having the same assumptions for Brock Bowers, and that could be wrong. I think Trey McBride's floor is much higher than Bowers. Much higher. I think McBride is safer just because.
Oh, I don't think so. I think Brock Bowers is the safest bet.
Well, the only reason I'm saying that is because this is his second year and there's a more body of work with Trey McBride. That's all. That's the only reason why.
Bowers has more yards after. Bowers is a bigger yard after catch guy, which I think he has a bit of a safer floor.
Fair. Yeah, like for me, Brock Bowers is ranked number 1. Trey McBride is number 2. Like that's clear.
There's no doubt about that.
That's clear. Clear as day. The only one that, and this is never going to end off after this, is Evan Ingram. Polarizing right now. I know we all have him picked around like 10, 11, 12, but would we be shocked if he finished as a top 5? I don't think so. I don't think so. In that offense with Denver right now,
top 5,
with the offensive line.
I think top 5 is tough.
I don't. But that means he has to finish above Jonnu Smith, which is like Roger. Relax.
He's got to stay healthy too.
It's the perfect offense for him. Short passing. That is what Bo Nix excels at. It is the perfect offense for Ingram and Denver, not Jacksonville. That's
please disregard the graphic for that.
Oh, whatever. It's fine. Yeah, like that's. I don't know, but anyways, all this to say. This is our first iteration of rankings, well before anything has even happened in training camp, well before even guys have shown up to OTAs. So there's still a lot that changed between now and then. We just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a amuse-bouche as to what could happen for the rest of the season right now. But as usual, guys, thank you very much for sticking around with us. You guys could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. So please, please, please don't forget to follow us on.
Where did I hear that before?
It's Jay-Z. What's up? I think
it's pull that out of your ass, or
it's a PSA. I think it's a PSA. Thanks for coming out tonight. Y'all come anywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's
here with us. We appreciate that. Exactly. So where was that? Yes, guys, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Watch us on Spotify. Check us out. Subscribe on all of our channels at the Bush League Huddle. We appreciate you all very much and thank you for sticking around with us, and we're looking forward to the next episodes to come and to kill it this season. So Raj, please play us out, play that music. Thank you very
much. Elvis.
I thought you were going to like play that funky music, white boy, and I'm like, wait a second.
Thank you very much. Oh my Darren Pang.
Can we get a Xavier Leggett?
Darren Pang. Come on, man. It's Darren Pang over there. Is go to the white way or the right way? It's Darren Pang. Come on, man. Get the raccoon. I can't say a short version. Roger gets a little bit upset. You know what I'm Peace out, everybody. How come you get me on the rankings there, Bruce Lee? Podcast? Where's the rankings? Y'all know my boy Josh Allen.
Wow, that is just really on point, man.
Bryce Young. My boy Bryce.
Dixon 6.
Peace out, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Peace.